Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us at the first event of our third annual European Union Penang Day. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming His Excellency Luc van der Bon to present the welcome speech.
Thank you, Kavita. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues from Europe, friends from Penang, it's a real pleasure and a great honor for me to be back here after last year's second edition of EU Penang Day, now celebrating the third edition of our EU Penang Day, and I hope many more to come in the coming years. And this year, addressing you on the topic of green urban development. Town planning tradition in Europe dates back to the 5th century before Christ, and don't worry, I'm not going to go over it year by year until now. So, when it was introduced by the ancient Greeks and Romans. In fact, the Greek philosopher Hippodamus is regarded as the father of urban planning. Over the centuries, the art of city planning in Europe has evolved dramatically. And not surprisingly, the concepts of sustainable development and sustainability influence today's urban planners. It is common to hear that with growing urbanization, modern lifestyles use too many natural resources, polluting or destroying ecosystems, increasing social insecurity and inequality, creating urban heat islands, and contributing and causing climate change. This is why many urban planners in Europe and worldwide advocate sustainable cities. In the last century alone, Europe transformed itself from a largely rural to a predominantly urban continent. It is estimated that around 70% of the EU population lives in urban agglomerations. However, urbanization is a global phenomenon. The United Nations predicted that by 2050, 46.1% of the developing and 85.9% of the developed world, respectively, will be urbanized. Asian cities are growing particularly rapidly. According to the Asian Development Bank, an additional 1.1 billion people will live in the region's cities in the next 20 years, and by 2030, more than 55% of the population of Asia will be urban. So how is modern Europe addressing these challenges? Today, we are going to share with you the best practices of 3 European cities: Amsterdam in the Netherlands, Bilbao in Spain, and Copenhagen in Denmark. However, before we look at these specific examples, allow me to give you a short background on EU urban planning policies. To start with, I must say that urban planning per se is not a European policy competence. However, economic, social, and territorial cohesion aspects have a strong urban dimension and cannot be isolated from a wider European policy framework. And this is the reason why over the past years we have been shaping common European objectives and principles for urban development. The 2007 Leipzig Charter on Sustainable European Cities has been the chief outcome of an ongoing intergovernmental process. It stresses the importance of an integrated approach to urban development and the focus on deprived neighborhoods in order to remedy vicious circles of exclusion and deprivation. In 2010, this was taken further with the Toledo Declaration to further promote a common understanding of an integrated approach in urban development. With the adoption of the Lisbon Treaty, territorial cohesion was recognized as a key objective of the European Union. Moreover, cities are expected to play a key role in the implementation of the Europe 2020 strategy for smart, sustainable, and inclusive growth. In 2011, the EU adopted the Territorial Agenda of the European Union 2020, which effectively linked territorial cohesion with the Europe 2020 strategy. It promotes balanced, polycentric territorial development and the use of integrated development approaches in cities as well as in rural and specific regions. But despite these positive policy developments, the European model of sustainable urban development is under threat due to a number of demographic, environmental, and social and economic challenges. Demographic change gives rise to a series of challenges that differ from one city to another. such as aging populations, shrinking cities, or intense processes of suburbanization. Meanwhile, we observe weakening links between economic growth, employment, and social progress, growing income disparities, increasing social polarization and segregation, and so on. And against that background, urban sprawl and the spread of low-density settlements is one of the main threats to sustainable territorial development. Public services are more costly and difficult to provide. Natural resources are overexploited, public transport networks are insufficient, and car reliance and congestion in and around cities are heavy, sometimes suffocating. In short, urban ecosystems are under tremendous pressure. And this shows that we must act and we must turn these threats into positive challenges. Moreover, we must take into account the whole urban metabolism. Cities are like living organisms and there are a number of flows which they rely upon. Challenges tend to be similar in different cities. However, their impact on cities is different and with different levels of intensity. The 5 major factors that affect viability of the cities are the size of the economic base, income distribution, cultural diversity, age composition, and environmental pressure. So what makes cities unviable? Economic decline or stagnation, decoupling of economic growth and social development, increasing income disparities, increasing poverty, competition as a negative-sum game. On the other hand, viable cities have future orientation, resilient and inclusive local economies, local excellent relevance and relevant excellence, and strategies for living with change. As I already mentioned, in Europe, we have adopted the Europe 2020 strategy for smart, sustainable, and inclusive growth. We believe that these 3 mutually reinforcing priorities should help the EU and the member states deliver high levels of employment, productivity, and social cohesion. Furthermore, the EU committed itself to a 20% reduction of CO2 emissions by 2020 compared to 1990 levels. And we are on track to achieving that, and moreover, we are looking beyond this target. But is it climate change that is a challenge for cities, or is it clean air, non-congestion, healthy mobility, and so on? The truth is, making cities green and healthy goes far beyond simple reducing CO2 emissions. It requires a holistic approach to environmental and energy issues, as the many components of the natural ecosystem are interwoven with those of the social, economic, cultural, and political urban system in a unique manner. A sustainable city must have attractive, open public spaces and promote sustainable, inclusive, and healthy mobility. Non-car mobility has to become more attractive, and multimodal public transport systems must be favored. The potential of socioeconomic, cultural, generational, and ethnic diversity must be further exploited as a source of innovation, and cities of tomorrow have to be elderly-friendly and family-friendly, as well as places of tolerance and respect. In Europe, ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded that we need to invest in our cities, but it is not only the level of investment that matters. Social, economic, and environmental challenges have to be addressed both at neighborhood level and in the broader territorial context. Cities can no longer be defined solely by their administrative boundaries, nor can urban policies target only city-level administrative units. I am certain that the European experience can be very useful for urban planners in Asia and in particular in Malaysia. And I hope and trust that today's presentations of European cities will be an inspiration for you where you can learn as well from the ways in which we went sometimes dramatically wrong as where it worked. So I hope that this seminar will provide a good forum for an interesting discussion, and I wish you a very pleasant day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I would also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of the ambassadors and representatives from 16 European Union member states in Penang. Please give them a round of applause. Today's forum, we will take a look at some of the best practices of Europe's greenest cities, and we will have representatives from the state of Penang, Penang Institute, to share with us how they are moving forward in greening their state and city. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Harry Molenaar, the Ambassador of the Netherlands, to present on Amsterdam.
Thank you, Kavita. Thank you, Penang Institute and the European Union Delegation in Kuala Lumpur to make this workshop, as I would call it, possible. I'm going to tell you a little bit about green urban development in Amsterdam. And let me start by saying just a few facts. And actually, the facts for Amsterdam also can be applied to many other capitals in Europe, I would say. It's not only Amsterdam that has the monopoly on these developments. When you go to other capitals in European cities, you find similar developments. So this is just one of them. Amsterdam, fairly small city, 800,000 inhabitants. It's well known as a city of bikes. My Danish colleague will later on continue to tell you a little bit more how to integrate bikes into a metropole. A city of canals, and for some of you also the city of coffee shops in the wider sense of the word. Green in Amsterdam is more than just bicycles. Green is not only for marketing or environmental purposes, it's about making your city future-proof to support economic and social well-being, taking care of our most important resources, natural resources and people. And when you work on a green development in an urban environment, you should always have a sound business case. Therefore, green policy doesn't stand on its own. In Amsterdam, it's part of a wider effort to strengthen our city and its economy. My first part of my presentation deals with how Dutch expertise has been applied in Amsterdam, leading examples of sustainable waste and water management. The second part deals with the strengthening of what we call the newest green initiatives, and that are actually partnerships between businesses, authorities, research institutions, and not to forget the people of Amsterdam, the so-called Amsterdam Smart City approach. And it needs a bottom-up approach, otherwise it won't work, these concepts. That is important to know. The first example, let's say, of let's say, a green management is so-called solid waste management in Amsterdam. 1.5 million ton of waste is processed per year in Amsterdam, of which 53% is biomass. Waste means valuable business. This company, the Amsterdam Waste and Energy Plant, even imports waste from abroad. Almost 25% comes from other countries. The output of this waste management plant is 10 million megawatt per hour and 600 trillion joules heat per year. The turnover of this company is 180 million euros, and they even make a profit of 12 million euros per year. And this doesn't yet include the benefit for the city, people and the environment. An example of CO2 savings. A household that is connected on, let's say, the energy in the city that the city produces, and this company produces, reduces, let's say, CO2 with, let's say, 55 solar panels, or not driving 15,000 kilometers. And it also recovers 28,000 tons of non-ferrous metals per year, like copper, zinc, silver, aluminium. A second example of where this city is heading for more greener management, the so-called water waste treatment plant. The water waste treatment plant provides sewage sludge and biogas to the other company I mentioned, to the energy to waste company. It provides electricity and heat. And it has even created a fuel station which started in 2012. Many major event and music venues, for instance, use waterless urinals. Waternet will use the pure urine to process it into phosphate. Also, the sewage in Amsterdam contains large volume of phosphate, a precious and scarce fertilizer. Waternet will also recover the phosphate out of the sewage of Amsterdam. This results in an annual saving of 400,000 euros. With the phosphate from the wastewater, Amsterdam can fertilize 10,000 football fields. Phosphate is one in mines in Morocco, China, and other countries. And it's expected that in the next 50 years, these natural sources dry up. Waternet would therefore reuse existing resources. The plant in Amsterdam includes 3 reactors, and startup is expected at the end of this year. Now I come to what I call Amsterdam Smart City. A city is smart when investment in capital and communication, infrastructure, fuel, sustainable economic growth, and high quality of life, in combination with an efficient use of natural resources. Amsterdam Smart City was initiated by the Amsterdam Economic Board, the City of Amsterdam, and 2 other companies. It has grown into a broad platform with more than 70 partners that are involved in a variety of projects focusing on energy transition and open connectivity. Amsterdam Smart City is all about the total sum of testing innovative products and services, understanding the behavior of the residents and users of the Amsterdam metropolitan area, and sustainable economic investments. Using a collective approach by bringing partners together and setting up local projects, Amsterdam Smart City makes it possible to test new initiatives. The most effective initiatives can then be implemented on a larger scale. All the acquired knowledge and experience is shared via the Amsterdam Smart City platform. In this way, the Amsterdam Smart City helps to accelerate climate and energy programs. The ultimate goal of all activities is to contribute positively towards achieving CO2 emission targets, as well as aiding the economic development of the Amsterdam metropolitan area. In doing so, the quality of life will improve for everyone. Examples of current projects. We have a smart grid, as they call it. In a part of Amsterdam, about 40,000 households, of which around 10,000 are served by a company called Alliander. They are served with the new grid, and it's called a smart grid. It has a high penetration of smart meters and contains the largest amount of solar panels in Amsterdam. To align current developments and further ambition in the field of sustainable power supply in the New West, this district has been chosen for the construction of the first smart grid in the Netherlands. The intelligent network contains also additional computers and sensors placed in the grid. As such, current and voltage are monitored continuously to provide more accurate monitoring and control functions. In the past, these functions weren't available at this level. The smart grid provides us with better and cheaper options to facilitate the energy transitions and latest developments. What is the benefit to the consumers? Reduction of the number and duration of power outages is one. Better opportunity to feed consumer-produced electricity back to the grid. Increased capability to support the integration of electric-powered vehicles. Prevention of large price increases for electricity transmission. And an enablement of active participation in a sustainable energy supply. The grid is intelligent because it's equipped with computer and sensor technology at key nodes. But we also have other examples of smart city. We have flexible public lighting, adjusting public lighting from a distance. New technology is being tested in Amsterdam, and about 300 smart lights have been installed. Car to go, electric cars to rent via app and internet, all electric cars, small and easy to park. When you charge the car, you receive free driving minutes. Another one, ship to grid. Almost 200 shore power stations are installed, allowing ships to connect to green energy instead of relying on polluting onboard diesel generators for their power supply. These are just a few examples what Amsterdam is doing. This is just a snapshot I'm giving to you. I could imagine that you have questions on what is Amsterdam doing, can we get in touch? Yes, you can keep in touch with the Dutch. And I gave you a few names here, and I have them also on paper. So who wants to have more information, in-depth knowledge, who wants to go and visit Amsterdam, be our guest, contact us. The first person to mention is our Trade and Economic Secretary at the Embassy, Mrs. Anne de Graaf, but also our Science and Technology Advisor, who comes here on a regular basis in the from Singapore. I thank you for giving me the time. I think maybe later on there's a Q&A session, and I would leave it with that. Thank you.